Well, we shared some reflections and our thoughts on the virtue of humility. And the second virtue we'd like to share some thoughts about is simplicity. Now, I got to tell you, I went through so many of Vincent's writings and his quotes. It's interesting. He wrote something like 33,000 letters. And some of them were to the confraternities of charity, and to the daughters, to the priests. There are only about 2,500 left in existence. So I went through 2,500, but I did go through some of them to see. And Vincent was very clear. This is his favorite virtue. Even of the 5 virtues that he is the cornerstone of Vincent's spirituality and what he has shared with all of his followers, simplicity was his favorite. And I'm pretty sure I know where he got that, why it became his favorite. This is the way Jesus operated. Vincent would say he did things in a simple way. Even the children could understand Vincent. And Jesus, I'm sorry. But Vincent felt the same way, that even children could understand the words of a simple person. And it doesn't mean there isn't something great about the person. They just do things in a simple way. And that's why it became his favorite virtue, because there would be no putting on airs. There would no people trying to be somebody they weren't. But they did things in a simple way. I preach on this a lot in giving parish missions. Jesus, in his way of being simple, he told his disciples, unless you become like a little child, you can't enter the kingdom of heaven. For the longest time, I didn't think he was being that serious. I thought he was just trying to be current. But then I started looking around, and Jesus was serious about this. Unless you acquire the simple life of a child and act like that, you aren't going to enter the kingdom of heaven. So, I looked at kids, and I see some of the qualities that a child has. They love to laugh. It's a simple thing, but they love to laugh. Sometimes kids laugh at stuff they don't even know what they're laughing about, but they laugh. I often thought, what a simple way to have people relax. It's through humor and laughter. Kids are spontaneous. A simple person, a person who acts in simple ways, is spontaneous. That you don't have to follow an A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3, 4. Kids don't, and they have a great time. For example, in the middle of a game, a child can say, "Can we play something else?" Can you imagine some of us as adults in the middle of a Monopoly game, playing Monopoly or some card game, and say, "Oh, let's stop, let's try something else"? No, the person who lives in a simple way, that's not that important. I want to play another game, we play another game. This is one thing I've noticed a lot, and probably why Jesus said, unless you become like a little child. Kids are fascinated by God's creation. And it's the little things. Like a rock. Kids can pick up a rock. Or how about a butterfly? Chase a butterfly. Or, just watch a snowflake fall on your tongue. Kids are fascinated by that. Those are the little simple things of life. And I sometimes take them all for granted. Much too complicated, you know. And I think I also noticed about children, they're very accepting. I'll tell you the simplicity of a child. There's no color in a child. They play with other kids because they're kids. There's no black or brown or red or yellow. Not with people. With kids, it's just that's a simple way of living. That everybody's a child of God. And the other thing that I noticed in people who will be like childlike or be the way Jesus wanted us to be, they're resilient. Nothing is so complicated you can't handle it. And so if I get knocked down, I get back up. I'm not going to make a major project out of just trying to get back up. Jesus did it, taught us that. Get back up. Life is not that tragic. So I understand, and I really believe Vincent got his love of simplicity from Jesus. It's the way Jesus was. There was nothing overpowering and so complicated with Jesus. So I appreciate Vincent in wanting simplicity to be that special virtue. You know, Vincent in Paris, he had what they called a Tuesday conferences. And priests, diocesan priests would come from all over Paris. Hundreds upon hundreds would come for his Tuesday conference. And his own confreres, the Vincentian fathers and brothers, challenged him one time and asked him and said, okay, how do you know? How do you know you are really living simply? How do you know that you're practicing simplicity? And he just, without batting an eye, just looked at him and he said, it's really simple. It's really simple. Seek the truth, speak the truth, and practice the truth. Vincent in his own simple way was very profound. So the challenge for the followers of Vincent is, okay, to seek the truth, speak the truth, and practice the truth. Now, the real problem with that is that, what's the truth? Who has the truth? So you're in a conversation with someone and you disagree, and it's about theology or it's about the church, and they tell you, no, this is the truth. And your response is, no, I don't think that's the truth. I don't think that's the truth. So who has the truth? The only thing that stands out to me is that we must go to the scripture. Go to the scripture and find Jesus. Place ourselves in the presence of God. Pick a passage. Place ourselves at the scene. Pay attention to his message, and then promise a response. And usually, when we pay attention to the message of Jesus, we find the truth. One of the things I don't want anybody ever saying about me is, he doesn't have a clue. He doesn't have a clue. You've heard that? You've heard people say that, or you might have thought that. You might have thought that about somebody. She don't have a clue. She don't have a clue. He doesn't have a clue. None of us wants to have that thrown at us. Doesn't have a clue. So Vincent's response to that is that, no hidden agendas. Seek, speak, practice the truth. You are probably like Bob and me. We don't like being with people who have hidden agendas. You never know where they stand. You never know. And so you're guessing. And then, someone says to you, oh, yeah, I'll be there. Oh, I'll be there. And then tomorrow they don't show. Or they say something and then they don't follow that. So Vincent was really ahead of his time
when he said, to be simple is to seek the truth, speak the truth, and then practice the truth. That's why I always follow that way of the Jesuits came up with that way of praying the scripture. Place yourself in the presence of God. Pick a passage. Place yourself at the scene. Pay attention to the message and promise a response. When I do that, it's pretty easy to see what the truth is, and then you seek it, and then you speak it, and then you practice it. So when Vincent, in my opinion, when Vincent was trying to ask us to be simple with simplicity, I think that's what he was talking about. That everybody knows where you stand. Everybody knows that you are seeking the truth and you're speaking it and practicing it. So Vincent was great. This is a great message for all. And those priests that came on Tuesday, they loved hearing this message. And the ladies of charity and the daughters of charity and the Vincentian fathers and brothers really appreciate this particular virtue. It's important to be humble, but then it's really, as far as dealing with the people we want to help, it's to be simple.
If you put the two virtues that we've shared some reflections on together, you really come up with an example of simplicity and humility. If you play golf, it's really a simple game. It's just a little wooden tee, and you put a ball on it, and you take a club and you hit it, and that's a beautiful walk. And every once in a while, you can be humbled by the game because you can't overpower it. You really can't win golf. Golf wins. But anyway, I got this buddy John who has a different idea. He don't look on golf as this wonderful walk of being simple and humble. The best way he talks about golf is that golf is a lot of disappointment and bad arithmetic. So I look on it, though, it's one example of how you can be humble and simple.
In our ministry, Bob and I have met, in our opinion, the most simple man we've ever met. And his name was Ray Cisco. He lived in Clairton, Pennsylvania. He was a very strong believer in Jesus, strong Catholic, went to daily mass, but he had such a simplicity about him. And he lived in a very simple home. He had one little stove oven in his kitchen, nothing fancy. He'd make 100 cakes a week and 15 apple pies, and he'd make 20 loaves of bread. In this little small oven, he worked, and then he would take them all over. He'd take them to Mass, 8 o'clock Mass, give them out to the ladies who came to Mass. He'd go to the grocery stores and give them out to the checkers who worked at the line. He'd go to gas stations where he had to get gas for his car and give them. He never charged a penny. But when you were in his presence, you knew you were in the presence of Jesus because he lived simply, and his simplicity was to minister to other people and to do something for them. So Bob and I, when I think of who was a man who just exuded simplicity, it was Ray Cisco, who lived in Clairton, Pennsylvania. He now is enjoying the kingdom that he well deserves. So I just want to close with this. I don't know. There's a lot of religious women in our country who really work hard, the daughters and the ladies that work hard for the poor. But this line, and I didn't do it, and I didn't make it up, and I can't remember who started, but it was this line, and I always remember this. Live simply so others can simply live. And that's a really great thing to remember, that when we do live simply, others are able to live.